Much has been said about Katharine Hepburn's scandalous private life, but there's one lover that sparked more controversy than all the rest. Allegedly, she entertained a romance with married director John Ford. On his deathbed, Hepburn went to visit him, and their conversation was recorded. Left alone and assuming that the tape had stopped rolling, Hepburn and Ford continued to talk, and unwittingly revealed a heartbreaking glimpse into their darker history. Growing up in the early 20th century, Katharine was raised by incredibly progressive parents. Her mother was a member of the Connecticut Women's Suffrage Association and would take young Katharine to demonstrations. Her parents were considered scandalous by some, but that was only the tip of the iceberg. Growing up, Katharine despised being a girl. She identified more with the boys and decided to chop off all of her hair, insisting that everyone call her Jimmy. Instead of persecuting her tomboy nature, her parents celebrated it, encouraging her to be her authentic self. Because of their unconditional support, she blossomed into a woman destined for greatness. Katharine became a talented golfer, but even more importantly, she began digging into her love of movies. She had a healthy and charming childhood, but little did she know her life was about to take an unbelievably dark turn. When she was 13, Katharine and her older brother Tom went on a trip to New York during Easter break to stay with their aunt. The siblings seemed to be the very picture of happiness, but the morning after an outing to the theater, Katharine discovered something so disturbing it would haunt her for the rest of her life. She found her beloved 15-year-old brother dead, seemingly having taken his own life. Katharine was inconsolable, but her family's reaction to the incident was chilling. Denial crept through Katharine's grieving family like a disease. They refused to admit that Tom had taken his own life and insisted that it must have been some kind of botched experiment. Katharine became a more anxious person, distrustful of other people, and as time wore on, the loss of her brother continued to burden her. No matter where she went, the memory of Tom followed. In college, she was awkward and self-conscious, often refusing to join the other girls in the dining hall. However, her struggle to fit in did not last forever. After all, Hepburn was a born rebel. College opened up, she risked taking sensibilities, and in one of her more wild moments, she even stripped off her clothes and bathed in the Closter Pond. She was even suspended for smoking in her dorm. In her second year, she joined the drama group and ended up playing the lead in one of the plays, which required her to dress up like a man. That was a look she often donned off stage as well. She sparked up a romance with Ludlow Ogden Smith, a socialite businessman and her future husband. But like many cases of young love, Hepburn and Smith came together at the wrong time, and in the end, fate dealt them a brutal hand. After getting a taste of theater in college, Katharine Hepburn knew in her heart that this was her dream. But her father wasn't convinced. Being an actress often went hand in hand with poverty, and he couldn't envision her being a success. Determined to prove her father wrong. However, achieving success was not going to be easy. Believe it or not, Katharine Hepburn wasn't one of those actresses who made a sudden leap to fame. She started in theater, and at first, she stumbled in the most humiliating ways possible. There were criticisms about her piercing voice, and then, after only a month into her theater career as an understudy, she was suddenly called on to fill in for the lead role on opening night. She completely dropped the ball. She was late, messed up her lines, and even physically tripped over herself. After being fired, she consoled herself by getting married, but after only a few weeks of playing the wife, she was dying to run off and get back to her career. Throughout their 6 years of marriage, Hepburn took advantage of her husband's deep affection for her. Smith was a devoted husband, providing emotional and financial support, but Hepburn never fully returned his love. Her true passion lay in the theater, and despite her efforts, she struggled to keep a job, often being dismissed by theater companies. In 1931, she confronted playwright Philip Barry about why he didn't cast her in his play, and his brutally honest response deeply hurt her. However, Hepburn was resilient. Although the rejection was difficult, she continued to persevere. Fortunately, just as Hepburn was facing challenges, she secured a life-changing role. In 1932, she achieved her breakthrough in The Warrior's Husband, a Broadway production that finally garnered her the positive reviews she had long sought. Like a classic Hollywood story, a talent scout in the audience was captivated by her performance, leading to a screen test at RKO Studios. Despite being an unknown actress, Hepburn boldly demanded a salary of $1,500 a week for her role in A Bill of Divorcement, a risky move for the studio, but one they would not regret. Even though this was Hepburn's first film role, she handled the pressure with grace, thriving rather than shrinking under it. When her debut film premiered, critics praised her powerful performance. RKO signed her to a long-term contract, and just 2 years later, she won her first Oscar, one of 4 she would receive throughout her career, although she never attended any Oscar ceremonies. However, Hepburn soon discovered that Hollywood was not just about acting. The personal lives of actors were filled with their own complexities, and she became embroiled in a scandal. Her move to Hollywood ultimately led to the end of her troubled marriage, exacerbated by her rising career and her affair with married agent Leland Hayward. Surprisingly, Hepburn's divorce was amicable, and she maintained a friendship with her ex-husband for life. While involved with Hayward, she also quietly pursued another relationship. According to biographer Barbara Leeming, Hepburn caught the eye of director John Ford while working on the 1936 film Mary of Scotland. Their friendship blossomed, and by the end of filming, Ford was infatuated with Hepburn. Ford was so taken with her that he contemplated divorcing his wife Mary to marry Hepburn. However, this plan fell apart when Mary threatened to take their daughter away. Ford's niece revealed that Hepburn even offered Mary $50,000 in an attempt to persuade her to grant a divorce. Unfortunately, Hepburn misjudged Mary. While Ford was known for his heavy drinking, he never drank during filming. However, during production, Hepburn received a frantic call from producer Cliff Reed, informing her that Ford had unexpectedly gone on a drinking binge. The actress hurried to Ford's house and found him alone and heavily intoxicated. In an effort to help him, she forced him to drink whiskey and castor oil, but to her horror, this combination made him extremely ill. She feared she had nearly killed him and realized she couldn't save him from his self-destructive ways. As she waited for her troubled director, her other lover, Leland Hayward, grew increasingly impatient. After both had gotten divorced, it seemed they could finally marry, but Hepburn broke Hayward's heart by rejecting his marriage proposal. Turning down a powerful man like Hayward had serious consequences. He cut off his support for her, having originally promised her a role in the play stage door, but withdrew it after feeling betrayed. By 1936, Hepburn's career took a downturn, with 4 consecutive unsuccessful films. Her prickly personality also turned the press against her. She could be abrasive and rude, loathing interviews and refusing autographs. This behavior earned her an unfortunate nickname, Katharine of Arrogance. Audience support began to fade as critiques of her unconventional style and masculine demeanor grew. Realizing how fickle Hollywood could be, Hepburn sought a role in the highly anticipated film Gone with the Wind, only to be insulted by producer David O. Selznick, who claimed she lacked the sensuality needed for the character. Distressed, Katharine Hepburn temporarily distanced herself from Hollywood's harsh critiques, leading her to her next romantic interest, Howard Hughes. They had been introduced by mutual friend Cary Grant, and Hughes had become infatuated with Hepburn. During a 2-week run of Jane Eyre in Boston, Hughes took her on several dates, and they made an interesting couple, a millionaire aviator and a glamorous actress. Although Hughes wasn't your typical romantic partner, he complimented her in a unique way. However, Hepburn still yearned for Ford and hoped he would leave his wife, a hope that never materialized. By May 1937, growing tired of waiting, she made a bold decision to move in with Hughes. Their life together was filled with luxury, including yachts and airplanes, riding high on Hughes's recent record for circling the globe. Yet, no amount of wealth could guarantee them true love. After his accomplishment, Hughes surprised Hepburn by proposing during a trip to visit her family in Fenwick. But Katharine Hepburn was not ready to give up her independence so easily. And she had one final test for him. Family meant everything to Hepburn, so before she could consider marrying Hughes, she wanted to see if he could appreciate what she valued, her family and her hometown. Upon arriving in Fenwick, it became evident that Hughes despised the visit. More troubling was his behavior. He seemed uninterested in her family and came across as arrogant and rude. This solidified her decision. Hughes returned to the West Coast alone. After appearing in the 1938 film Bringing Up Baby, Hepburn became labeled as box office poison, a tough blow for a struggling actress, forcing her back to the stage in the successful production of The Philadelphia Story. Thanks to her generous ex-boyfriend, she had the film rights tucked away. Thanks to her outstanding performances, Hollywood was eager to adapt The Philadelphia Story into a film. This time, Katharine Hepburn took control of the project. She sold the rights to MGM, the top studio in the industry, but that was just the beginning. Hepburn had a clear set of demands. She was determined to reclaim her status as a leading actress. She ensured that she would star in the film, alongside two legendary actors, Cary Grant and James Stewart. The movie was designed to revitalize her image and win back the audience's affection. It was a clever strategy, and only a sharp-minded actress like Hepburn could orchestrate such a remarkable comeback. When the film premiered, her hard work paid off. The Philadelphia Story was a huge success, and her career was back on track, but she wasn't finished proving her worth. Hepburn was a bold and assertive woman, and her next project was a romantic comedy titled Woman of the Year. Once again, she took charge, gaining more power in the process. She chose George Stevens as her director and Spencer Tracy as her leading man. Little did she know that meeting Tracy would change her life. Many consider Spencer Tracy to be the love of Hepburn's life, and Woman of the Year marked the start of their passionate but complicated romance. Hepburn was instantly attracted to Tracy, but initially, he wasn't as taken with her. Their on-screen chemistry captivated audiences, leading studios to cast them together repeatedly, but the reality of their relationship was much more complex. Their performances were so natural and filled with meaningful glances that audiences began to suspect something deeper. To protect their reputations, studios tried to keep their affair under wraps, which only fueled rumors. Almost everyone in Hollywood knew the scandalous truth. Tracy was married, and his relationship with Hepburn intensified his feelings of guilt due to his Catholic faith. He struggled with personal demons, blaming himself for his son's deafness, believing it was a punishment for his sins. As time went on, Tracy's struggles worsened, and Hepburn was there to support him. She understood that he would never leave his wife for her, as his commitment to his religion prevented it. Tracy spent less time with his wife and children, often staying in rented rooms or motels. Their love could never be publicly acknowledged, and they were forced to keep their relationship secret. Tracy faced anxiety, depression, and addiction, and Hepburn described him as tortured. Their relationship took a toll on her career. By the 1940s, she devoted much of her time to helping him with his insomnia and drinking issues. In many ways, she became a maternal figure for him, but when it came to having children, she openly stated that she never wanted to be a mother. Despite her self-proclaimed selfishness, Hepburn's unwavering devotion to Spencer Tracy was a notable exception. Throughout the years they were together, Hepburn maintained a successful career. Unlike many actresses of her time, she managed to remain relevant as she aged, adapting to roles that interested her. In the 1950s, she even ventured into Shakespeare. However, the 1960s brought significant challenges, particularly as Spencer Tracy's health deteriorated. She took a 5-year break from acting to care for him. They eventually reunited for their 9th and final film together, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, in 1967. It was a bittersweet experience. Hepburn won her second Oscar for her performance, but just 17 days after filming wrapped, Spencer Tracy passed away on June 10, 1967. Hepburn was by his side, honoring their secret relationship by not attending his funeral. She only revealed the truth after Louise Tracy's death in 1983. While this well-known Hollywood love story appeared straightforward, some suspected deeper secrets were involved. Throughout her life, Katharine Hepburn faced criticism for her boyish looks, fashion choices, and masculine demeanor. She showed little interest in marriage or children, leading the media to speculate about her abuse, questioning whether she was a lesbian. This speculation intensified when she was linked to Spencer Tracy, with some suggesting their relationship was a cover for their true orientations. Some speculated that Katharine Hepburn was a lesbian and Spencer Tracy was gay. Tracy's struggles with depression are often attributed to his repressed feelings. Despite the rumors, Hepburn and Tracy shared a unique bond that overcame many obstacles. After Tracy's death, Hepburn dealt with her grief in her own way, embracing the spotlight rather than retreating from it. She won her third Oscar for her role as Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine in The Lion in Winter, though she was indifferent to the accolade. As she aged, Hepburn's relationship with the press evolved. She became more open, even participating in a lively 2-hour interview with Dick Cavett in 1973 that showcased her vibrant personality. Katharine Hepburn was unapologetically outspoken. She advocated for birth control and abortion rights and was candid about her atheism in a Hollywood that often emphasized religion. In 1973, she reconnected with filmmaker John Ford, who was writing a book about him. During their recorded conversation, Ford expressed his love for Hepburn, to which she responded warmly, suggesting a deeper connection than many had realized. Ford passed away later that year. As Hepburn aged, many of her friends and contemporaries disappeared, but she remained a formidable presence. Even in her 80s, she was active, playing tennis almost daily, and exploring new hobbies like painting. After her brother's death, she made a surprising decision. She changed her birth date to match his, effectively making herself 2 years older. This secret remained until she revealed her true birthday in her autobiography. In the spring of 1993, Hepburn's health began to decline after she was hospitalized for exhaustion. 3 years later, pneumonia struck her hard, and by 1997, her health was failing. She battled dementia for several years before passing away from cardiac arrest in 2003. However, she found peace in her beloved family home in Fenwick, Connecticut, at the age of 96,